The story begins in contemporary Tokyo, with a voiceover narration concerning the expanding city's state. The narrator tells the tale of how Taira no Masakato went against the emperor and was executed for his crimes in the 10th century AD. However, his hatred for the new capital of Edo was so strong that his spirit persists in the city to this day. Throughout the years, Masakato's spirit was placated through the worship of the citizens of Tokyo, and he became deified as the city's guardian spirit. However, if his powerful spirit were to be awoken, his suppressed anger against the Japanese Empire would be unleashed and would cause havoc on a national level. Back in 1907, a man named Yasunori Kato arrives in Tokyo. Kato wishes to destroy the city in order to appease his ancestors, the indigenous tribes of Japan who fought against the imperial court. In order to do so, he wants to awaken Masakato's spirit. He visits the shrine and uses magic to release the spirits, but Masakato doesn't appear. Around the same time, Yasumasa Hirai, a direct descendant of the legendary figure Abe no Seimei, arrives in Tokyo in order to advise Baron Eiichi Shibusawa on how to grow Tokyo and make the city more successful. Upon arrival, Hirai immediately comments on the vengeful spirits gathering over Tokyo. Then, he is suddenly attacked by Kato, who uses a Shikigami before promptly disappearing. Hirai meets with the Baron, who tells him how he wants to improve the city. Hirai explains that they must first deal with the spirits released from the mound of Masakato. The Baron then introduces Hirai to Yuichi Tatsumiya, who works for the Ministry of Finance's Budget Bureau. Yuichi's sister Yukari comes to see him and she has a strange vision of the destruction of Tokyo, and then she sees Kato on a bridge. Kato seemingly tries to steal away her soul, but Hirai is able to stop him just in time. Hirai asks Yuichi if Yukari ever had a near-death experience because he sensed a trace of something in her. Yuichi seems very defensive and appears to be hiding a dark secret. Later, Yukari's friend Narutaki is attacked by evil spirits at a shrine. While this is happening, Yukari experiences another strange vision. She is once again visited by Kato, who gives her a charm against evil. Yukari later disappears during the night. Using his magic, Hirai is able to locate Kato, who has kidnapped Yukari. The two sorcerers fight, and in the end Kato is able to escape, leaving the girl to wash up on the river bank, where she is found by a fisherman. A giant bug crawls out of her mouth, and with the help of Hirai's shiki, the bystander is able to crush it with a rock. It seems that Yukari can't catch a break because back at the hospital an evil nurse forces another magical eye down her throat. Hirai explains to the others that Kato is probably after Yukari because she possesses supernatural abilities and can use her to cause trouble in Tokyo. He is interrupted by Kato's dramatic arrival. He stands atop a tree and tells Hirai it's a waste of time to try and calm the vengeful spirits living in the city. He's even so bold as to just outright tell them that he's going to abduct Yukari again tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. And then he starts laughing and disappears. Hirai decides to do a purification ritual on Yukari. Of course, Kato launches his attack during the ceremony. Hirai's men try to fend off Kato's Shikigami, but they are overpowered. At the same time, a horrific stomach worm emerges out of the nurse and attacks the men. Just as they are about to destroy it, Kato makes it explode, destroying the building. Kato then makes his entrance and grabs Yukari. Hirai pulls out a bow and arrow, but the arrow strikes Kato's hand on a magic symbol that transposes the arrow to Hirai's body instead. He then flies away and promises that he will turn this megalopolis to ash. Later, Kato seemingly impregnates Yukari with an orb of light that represents the 2,000-year-old curse of his ancestors. Yukari will bring this curse to fruition. He then takes Yukari to Masakato's mound to use her as a medium, but Masakato tells him not to disturb his sleep and refuses to awaken. Kato decides to leave Tokyo, believing that Yukari will give birth to a superior medium. Yuichi retrieves his sister and a doctor informs him that she is pregnant. Yuichi considers having the doctor perform an abortion. Yuichi goes to see his sister and starts strangling her while in a trance, recalling a time he did the same thing when they were children. He stops himself, but it remains unclear what happens next. Meanwhile, Hirai's men discover that Kato was actually a lieutenant in the infantry corps but apparently died at war 20 years ago. Tragedy then strikes the nation when the Emperor Meiji passes away, thus ending the Meiji period. In a display of devotion to the Meiji Emperor, Hirai commits seppuku, an act that also serves to divine the year of Tokyo's destruction, the year of the pig. However, Hirai leaves behind the information he has gathered on Kato. He writes that Kato was born in Rujin village in the Wakayama prefecture, which according to legend was also the birthplace of Hirai's ancestor, Seimei Abe, as well as the Tsushima Kato family. This village was supposedly founded by the renowned mystic and ascetic, Enno Ozanu. However, Hirai goes on to add that there is no Kaito family in Ryujin village, there is no Kaito in any of the ancient documents. But there are legends about strangers who would sometimes appear in the nearby mountains and use magic. Hirai believes Kaito is a descendant of the ancient people who didn't obey the founder, and Kaito has inherited both the curse of the magic of the Kibi. We then jump 10 years into the future where we meet Yukari's daughter Yukiko. She appears to have the same visions as her mother. Earthquakes start occurring in Tokyo, and Narutaki's friend informs him that Masakato's mound is the center of the seismic activity and that similar earthquakes have been happening in Dalian, China at the same time. Narutaki begins to suspect that Kaito might be behind these earthquakes. Meanwhile, Kaito attempts to kidnap Yukiko, but she is saved by Kamo the fortune-teller, who then informs the others that today is the best day for Kaito's return. And indeed, that night he takes Yukiko and makes his way to the mound. Upon crossing the Nihonbashi Bridge, Kaito runs into several defensive measures put in place by the Tsushimikato clan and Hirai's followers. Despite all this resistance, he still successfully makes his way to Masakato's grave and tries to invoke its spirit through the body of Yukiko. Furious, Masakato's spirit reacts by summoning a lightning bolt down upon Kaito. However, Kaito's previous attempts to create an artificial earthquake were successful enough to have disturbed the underground dragon, whose violent undulations result in the Great Kanto earthquake of 1923. The plot shifts to 1927, a year into the Showa period. While rebuilding Tokyo, plans are put forth by Noritsugu Hayakawa to erect a subway system which will modernize the city. Hayakawa employs the talents of Torihiko Terada, a physicist and scientist in the field of earthquake studies, to oversee construction. Kaito infiltrates the construction sites for the subway tunnel, and utilizes Shikigami to hold the workers at bay while he focuses on a second awakening of the underground dragon, trying to create an earthquake larger than the Great Kanto one. Shibusawa calls in a feng shui expert, Shigemaru Kuroda, who pinpoints the source of these disturbances to foreign magic that is undermining the balance of the Earth's energy veins. Since the construction workers are too frightened to continue their work, Terada decides that different action must be taken to complete the excavation. He enlists the help of Dr. Makoto Nishimura to use his robot Gaku Tensaku to finish the work. Terada reasons that since Gaku Tensaku is inhuman, he can't be tricked by psychic apparitions that would terrify normal men. Meanwhile, a young shrine maiden by the name of Keiko Makata appears near the Ministry of Finance. She is a powerful and skilled Miko who has been summoned by Masakato's spirit to oppose Kaito. While praying at Masakato's shrine one day, she catches the eye of Yaichiro Tatsumiya, who courts her. The two eventually marry, and Keiko is initiated into the Tatsumiya household. As a member of the Tatsumiya household, Keiko provides spiritual protection for the family from the inside. Kaito, prevented from rousing the underground dragon by Masakato, decides to kidnap Yukiko and use her as a sacrifice to amplify the dragon's energy. After a battle at the Tatsumiya household, Kaito escapes with Yukiko and Keiko pursues him underground. While fighting with Keiko, Kaito is distracted and doesn't notice the efforts of Gaku Tensaku, who, drilling deep underground, has arrived at the heart of the underground dragon and self-destructs. This throws the chi veins into disarray, releasing Yukiko and foiling Kaito's plan. Finally, Keiko uses Masakato's power to banish Kaito. Later, Kuroda runs into Keiko while he's following strange activity in the city's underground flow. They are both aware of a strange shift that has occurred in the ground and the sky. Meanwhile, at the behest of Yukari, Narutaki looks into strange equations that Yukiko has been writing. He figures out that it is Lagrange's equation. It turns out that Kaito has been conveying the numbers for the equation through Yukari, who then gets Yukiko to solve the equation. Witnessing the possession, Keiko communicates with Kaito and asks him why he's taking control of Yukari instead of possessing Yukiko directly, seeing as she supposedly has his blood. She theorizes that Yukiko does not in fact have Kaito's blood. Narutaki meets up with Tatsumiya and asks how Yukari developed her supernatural powers. Tatsumiya doesn't provide an answer and just walks away. Narutaki says that it's because Yukari almost died once and went to Hades but was able to return to the real world. That's how she came about her strange powers, and that's what attracted Kaito to her. A group of scientists notice bizarre changes in the universe, notably that the moon is slowly getting bigger and bigger. They look at Yukiko's equation and discuss Lagrange's theory that the moon was once positioned in such a way that it was in a state of eternal full moon. The scientists believe, based on the moon's current trajectory, that it may be hurled out into space due to its friction with Earth, leading to devastating consequences. Wounded by Keiko, Kaito has retreated to a small, desecrated temple on the outskirts of Tokyo. we see that he is employing all of his powers to shift the path of the moon so that it will rebound violently off the earth and disturb the dragon who will destroy Tokyo. Haunted by memories of what he did to his sister, Tatsumiya attempts to shoot her but Narutaki intervenes and the shot misses. Tatsumiya then goes after Yukiko. He starts strangling her and proclaims that they must die in order to protect the city. The others restrain him but he doesn't stop until Yukiko calls him father, thus confirming that Tatsumiya is indeed the one who impregnated his sister, not Kato. Keiko receives spiritual aid from Kuroda and Masakato's spirit and sets off to stop Kato once and for all. Instead of fighting him, however, she channels the power of the Bodhisattva, against whom Kato, an Oni, is powerless. Bathed in the limitless compassion of the Bodhisattva, the curse that had been fueling Kato for so long is appeased and he dissipates. The story ends in 1927 with Japan's first underground railroad system being opened and a quote by Kota Rohan, who hopes Tokyo will find peace for the time being.